Welcome back, everyone, to the Nude and Lude podcast.
Hey, guys.
I'm Julie Cole.
I'm Joanna.
And welcome back. I want to go ahead and start before we get anywhere else in this, this is going to be episode 2 of a multi-part series, but we have an episode 1 that came out before this one. And if you don't go to that one first, this one won't make sense.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it will make sense, but the flow would get screwed up. You're telling a story.
It's building on, each episode is building on it, on the last one.
Come to the mic a little bit.
Everyone is building on the last one.
There you go. So what we're going to do is we'll pick up where that one left off.
Yes.
Yep. So, did you want to do a point of gratitude real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you start?
Okay. I was thinking about this on the way here. I am grateful, and I might have done this one before, but I don't care. It is okay to do it again. For my healthy body.
Yeah.
And strong body.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to mom real hard this weekend, helping my boy make some money, earn money so that he could buy a Nintendo Switch, which meant I was working equally, if not possibly harder than him also. But it was more the principle, for him. Anyway, I did manual labor for 3 days straight.
I know. That's all. I was in Asheville seeing your estranged husband.
Yes.
No,
yes.
joking. That's a joke, by the way, y'all. Like, she always calls Trevor Hall her husband.
Yes. Mm-hmm. A girl can dream.
Yeah.
Anyway, out of Trevor world and back into mine.
Yeah.
Stark
reality where we're going today.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I am healthy and strong, and I'm at 46 years old, and not everybody can say that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mommed hard.
Yes.
Like, Colton's learning a really valuable lesson about working for something.
Yes. And he saw me right beside him working also. And, I was tired at the end of the day, but I wasn't like trashed.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, how am I going to top that? Just kidding. No, I'm grateful. I'm also grateful. I'm grateful for just new experiences. So I got a chance to venture out into new experience this weekend. It was great.
Yeah.
Had a good time. I got to re-see Trevor Hall. We tried to see him at Red Rocks in April. It ended up being a complete shit show for us. Not the concert. The concert was great, but they had 4 bands playing, and by the time he came on, the entire crowd was just shithoused drunk. And people were spilling beer all over us and falling into us and stepping on us, and it's like this spiritual experience to see him, and it was not spiritual. And after at the start of the 4th song, we left. Like, we just left, and so we didn't get to see him, and we flew all the way out to Denver to go see him play. And so we got to see him this weekend up at Salvage Station. Great venue in Asheville, by the way. Really loved it. Yeah. And JP got, almost up to the front with us, and I danced my ass off, and I just had so much fun. Mm-hmm. Good. It was a lot of fun.
Dancing is fun.
Yeah.
Dancing at Trevor Hall's even better.
I know, get it out of your system. And Gone Beyond. They're great. They're a great band to see live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was good.
Good.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll talk more about that offline.
Word.
Yeah. Okay. You want to take a deep breath? Okay, so where we left off in the last episode, and if you're coming in here and you didn't hear my first warning, I'm giving you a second warning to heed. This is episode 2 of a multi-part series, so you need to go back 1 episode at the very least to at least understand where we're going today.
Yeah.
Where we went last time was you talked about you and Mike meeting. So Joanna it still doesn't roll off the tongue. We talked about this afterward. It was like, widow. Yeah. So Joanna is telling her story about
my widow story.
Your widow story. It is, and it's a huge thing, because I know that you made a commitment to tell the story, but all the stuff it brings up, right?
Yeah.
So we had a number of texts afterward, and there's always a piece that comes afterward that you really have to process, and and it brings up more stuff to grieve.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And when we left here last week after we recorded the first part of it, you were like, "You okay?" Make eye contact with me, kind of thing. "You okay?" "Sure, I'm fine. Famous last words, "I'm fine." And
I was like, "Call me later."
Yeah. Shit. Yeah. So it was a couple days later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm standing in Costco. I have breakdowns in Costco.
Yeah.
a lot. Anyway, texted Julie and was like, I'm not okay. Yeah.
And it's okay. That's the beauty of it is like, it's okay to have those things. Like that's part of the grief process. And that's what we were talking about. Y'all, I really want to say this. Like, I think that this topic, and as we unpack it, we're really going to get into why this is like, why we came up with Nude and Lude. Yeah. Right? People see us walking down the street and having a lot of assumptions about the lives that we've led. Right. Yes. And like, we'll talk about anything. Yep. Our only rule was what? Nothing in real time.
Oh, yes, that's right. We have to have time to process it and not let it squirt sideways.
Yeah, and just not be dripping, inappropriate shit out there into the interwebs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying all that to say that, like, Nude and Lude is also like, we're telling the stories. We're like peeling it back. We're letting it be raw. We're being, we're bearing it all as our tagline. And so that's part of this for you. Right. Yeah, because it's a powerful story. It packs a punch, but it's got a lot of layers.
Yeah, it does. And I was actually talking to my, real quick, because I know we got to get into this, therapist earlier today. And I was struggling with the, like, why do I have to keep telling this story? Why do I feel like I'm obsessed with my story almost, like it feels almost narcissistic or something, not, what I mean, though, like, why do I have to keep talking about this, And she was like, I don't know. Why do you think you have to keep talking about it, And she asked some very good questions to me to help me get to this statement of there aren't many people in this world who understand who Mike was and the impact that he had on me. Right. And it's almost like I think that if I just keep talking about it, I'll see the light in somebody's eyes and they'll get it, right. And that doesn't always happen. What I can hope for is that someone can connect or relate to some part of it, but like no one will ever understand, right. except for me, because I lived it. Exactly the profound impact that man had on my life. Yeah. And the connection that he and I had and still have. It would require someone to go into my brain and see all the synapses and the colors and the visuals that I have in my head. And we can't do that. And so I think that's why I keep talking about it and talking about it. And I've kind of come to the conclusion also that and we've talked about this before, the English language is far too limited for me to ever be able to verbally or manually through my writing express it. Yeah. So this is the best that I can do is just keep talking about it, Right. And you and my therapist, like I know that y'all get it. Yeah. And my other very close people. But there are still some very close people who don't get it. Yeah. And I'm not doing this necessarily for them. Again, I just hope that someone can connect and relate, to some part of it.
Well, and I think a big thing that I'm drawing from what you're saying too is that you're not retelling it. The retelling of it isn't just so people understand the impact of the total story, right? Yeah. It's not I sit here today changed as a result of this story, especially where we're going in the next couple of episodes. But it's more, you were changed by the thing that produced the story. Yes. That's the pieces. It's not the hardship. It's not the trauma. It's not the pain part of the story. It's the wild way that y'all are interconnected as souls, that absolutely. You were seen and witnessed, and he was seen and witnessed, and that you just fucking loved each other. Yes, in an eternal way.
Absolutely, and that I think a lot of people hear this story and they are drawn to the death. Of a 40-year-old man. Yeah.
The tragedy of it.
The tragedy of it, and not
the train wreck part of it that everybody can't stop looking at.
Yes, and not necessarily like they're getting off on it or anything. No, but it's it's like, whoa, a 40-year-old man died. That just doesn't happen a whole lot. But
and when y'all had gotten to the place you got to too.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm hoping, as I keep retelling this story, is that people will start to connect with and to what led up to his death, you know, and like the connection that he and I had and the creativity that we shared. It's the sensational part is the death.
Right.
And the big chunks of things that led up to it. But had we not had that connection in the first place, I would never have stuck around.
Sure.
And he wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
He wouldn't have either.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and something that we can definitely peel out, because one of the things I can say about your writing is that you've bared out some pieces in your writing in recent months that haven't been publicly shared.
Yeah.
Like the burn story.
Yeah.
And pieces of that, you know, like those raw moments where there's just unadulterated vulnerability and you literally have to lean into each other. And that, like, those were places where you had real and legitimate, deep, meaningful safety with one another.
Yes. Yeah, like we were doing that shit well.
That's the piece that people aren't going to get into your brain and hear. They're not even going to hear it at the totality of the story, but that's why you retell it.
Yeah.
Because it brings that piece alive for you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the piece you reconnect with. That's why you have his picture, why you talk to it and kiss it and hug it. Right?
Yep.
Which we talked about in another episode.
Yeah. So go find it.
Yeah, somewhere. It might be one of the Cold Wellness episodes. So, you know. Yeah, so let's dive back in.
Okay.
I just want to take a minute to take a breath, and I want to give everybody else a chance to take a collective breath. I'm going to give you a second to do that. I'm going to do a recap.
Okay.
So in the last episode, you talked about how you and Mike met, you know, how you kind of got connected on a mission trip when you went to Belize, like how kind of quickly everything kind of coalesced for you. You got married, got pregnant, and you know, and where we left off, you had an infant Colton. There had been some issues going on with Mike, and he had gone to have an endoscopy done, and you go in, it's taking hours and hours, everybody's coming in and out, you're out of bottles, like, and then you get to the place where you walk in and the woman looks at you and she won't make eye contact, and she says,
the doctor will be out to see you in a minute. And literally there's no one else in the room with me except me and my baby, 2.5 month old baby. And I am alone. My sister is out of town. My dad doesn't live in town. And I remember, and also the last part was I remember praying, whatever it is that I'm about to have to go through, just prepare me for it. So the door opens, the doctor steps out, he's grim, you know, the whole, I'm sure y'all can see it in your head. And he pulls me into this tiny little corridor, and he says, I'm pretty sure Mike has cancer. I mean, like, there was no lead up to it or anything. And I, you know, the audacity of this man saying this to me.
Which is a theme, by the way, which people will see. People just pour it out.
Yes.
Bam!
Yes. Cold cock me. So he says, I'm pretty sure Mike has cancer. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know? And he said colonoscopy was completely clear. But when we went down to, down his throat to do the endoscopy, I immediately saw a tumor. And I was like, a tumor? You know, in my mind, I'm thinking tumor is this like nice little like gray looking rock thing, you know? And I'm like, well, we can just take it out then, you know? But he says, come with me. And he starts pulling up the images and stuff. And it is this nasty, oily, black thing that looks like asphalt that has melted. And it is coming down his esophagus and down into his stomach, the top of his stomach. And anyone with eyes and a brain could look at this and think, oh, shit, that is not good. That does not look good. And I still, though, am beating my head against this, brick of denial. Like, well, how are you sure? And he looks at me and he's like, Joanna, I've been doing this. It was Gabe Salibi. Says, I've been doing this for 30-something years. It is. And so we're in this, we had moved from the corridor into his private office, and now I'm walking out into the holding area. What is that? Like a recovery unit, and all the nurses are standing looking at me, and I can see pity in their eyes, and sadness. I walked to Mike. He's just waking up. And I remember he immediately grabs his arm and says, "Why the fuck is my IV still in? Something's wrong, isn't it?" Mm-hmm. It's like he knew.
Yeah.
I think he did. I think that's why he probably put it off for so long, you know. And he looked at me, you know, in one of those moments of clarity, you know, like when you're coming out of anesthesia, and he could focus on my eyeballs, and I could see he was panicking, you know. I've got Colton in my arms, and I remember looking, and I said to him, something's not okay. They found something, you know, I don't know what it is yet. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, they're like moving you, because he had internal bleeding also. This thing was bleeding inside of him also. And I said, they're taking you to Lexington Hospital, you know, and he says, "Well, you can drive me." And Dr. Salibi was like, nope. And I said, "Well, I've got to go home and get diapers and bottles and stuff, you know." And he's like, nope, either the ambulance takes him or he stays here, and, you know, until we can get him somewhere like medical, not going home and letting him talk me into keeping him there and stuff. So called my sister, called my dad, and was like, you know, hit the panic 911 button with them. My sister showed up at some point and took Colton. My dad came. We went to Lexington Hospital, and he stayed there for a week. And they confirmed it was, at first they said just stage 3 cancer, esophageal cancer. But then after further testing, there was a lymph node down in his groin area. Yeah, and it was distally far enough from the primary site that they said it was stage 4. So luckily, we ran into someone that we'd built a house for on that very last day of his stay at Lexington. And the doctor was like, "You got to get the fuck out of here. You know, you can't." He didn't even know we were there. We ran into him in the cafeteria, and he said, "Let me make a call right now." And he called a doctor at SCOA, confirmed that Mike should not stay here in Columbia for care. And so we saw, what were you saying?
I said off to MUSC.
Off to MUSC, yeah. We saw Dr. El Ghanidi at SCOA the next morning at like 8 a.m., and he agreed to do whatever protocol, you know, MUSC needed him to do chemo-wise once we got back from MUSC. So anyway, we moved to Charleston, left 4 kids behind, my 3, his 1, and we took, obviously, Colton with us because he was 2.5 months old, and moved into someone's, who was a friend at the time, is not anymore, into a condo on St. James Island, and lived there for 6 or 7 weeks. And every morning, you know, we'd pack up and go to radiation at 8:30 a.m. and come back. And at first, you know, he would go on walks with Colton and I and stuff, but then it started catching up with him, and he was bad off, you know, from the radiation and the chemo that they were doing at the same time. But I think he missed 1 day, and it wasn't because of him. It was because the machine, something was wrong with the machine, you know, but that man went. I cannot even imagine. Like, can you imagine waking up knowing that you're going to go get another dose of this thing that is making you feel the worst you've ever felt in your entire life, you know? Burns. I mean, he was burnt everywhere, inside, outside, everywhere. And he would wake up every morning and go do it.
Mm-hmm. And this was, you know, late winter, going into early spring of 2015.
16. No, 15. Yeah, because Colton was born in January. He was diagnosed in March, and we were in Charleston by April, 1st of April.
Yeah, I wanted to establish the timeline because it'll be significant later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So is there anything else? I don't think I need to say anything else about that part of it. I mean, it was grueling, and we would come home every weekend to see the kids. Cash, his son, still came every weekend. We tried to keep that consistent, you know. And we would leave our kids. Yeah. Every Sunday. And my kids were teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Cash was little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would do that. And then we came home and finished chemo at SCOA.
Right.
And met great people there. We met great people in MUSC. He was a flirt, and he was even feeling his most rotten. He could flirt with any woman. And so we met a lot of people there and met a lot of people at SCOA, and he got through the protocol of everything. So this would have been June. Yeah. And everything was fine.
Yeah. Quote unquote, air quotes.
Air quotes. And so the holidays came and went, Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas, and he was gaining weight back.
The floods happened too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I was actually because I think that's significant.
They did, yeah.
Because he was like feeling better.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He was back to his piss and vinegar self.
Yeah, he was. And he was ready to work.
He was, when the floods happened, he was pissed.
Yeah, he sure was. And he was pissed. You know what he was really pissed at? Is that he had that giant military vehicle and nobody was asking him to help.
So for those of y'all who don't know, when in 2015, we had a record rain.
It was October of 2015.
Yeah. What did I say?
You didn't. You just said 2015.
Oh, yeah, October 15, 2015. And we had what they called a 1,000-year flood. It wasn't just us, but it hit us particularly hard.
Yeah.
And it sustained. I mean, it compromised our water system, the reservoir at the City of Columbia Water, and they had to redo that. I was a state employee, and I was out of work for like 4 weeks because of it.
Yeah. Demographics didn't matter. Like, it hit the super rich people, and it hurt the super
one of the
poor
most
people.
one of the most famous pictures that went around the world was our friend Christy Ackerman Stoneburner's Forerunner going down the street. Yeah, that was her Forerunner. And floating away, and so we one of the big things though that really Mike got really mobilized over was the lake filled up really quickly, and they were very concerned about flooding around the lake front. And what happened, and I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to get hit for libel for any purposes, but basically I think what's been established is that SCNG moved to open the floodgates to let some of the water off the lake, but they didn't. I think it has been established by a lawsuit that there was some. They didn't give people adequate warning.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the neighborhoods downstream actually got flooded suddenly, and families were trying to escape and get out and all this other stuff, and it ruined a lot of their property.
Yes.
And so a lot of the community got involved in going down into this one particular neighborhood down off of behind, Old Bush River. Bush River. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was an apartment complex. And I can't remember.
And then the neighborhood down behind it too.
Yeah, we didn't work in there. It was just the apartment complex. By the time we found out about the neighborhood behind, we had to tap out. It had been a week, and we'd not worked.
Oh, the F3 groups got into that neighborhood. They people were helping people get their houses, get all the stuff. I mean, I took the girls. I think at one point y'all put a call out for waters and some other stuff for the workers, like people out there. And y'all, it's October. I mean, it's mid-October here, and it was like 90 degrees outside.
It was awful. It was so damn humid.
Yeah, it was.
And there was
hot.
water everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's even more like standing water everywhere. Also, just the earth was soaked.
Yeah. But Mike, man, that got Mike fired up.
Oh, it did. Yeah. I'll tell it quick.
Yeah.
So it's raining, cats and dogs outside. Mike's like, walking around moaning and groaning because nobody's calling him for his giant military vehicle. And so I take my laptop and sit on the toilet, and I hear, this is going to become a theme also, I hear a voice, and it says, "It's coming, don't worry."
Yeah.
I'm like, my bowel movement? No, that's not what it was.
That comes regularly.
That comes regularly. I don't have to worry about that. That's right. So I open up my my laptop and get on Facebook, and a lady named Misty has put out a call. She cleans, I think, or paints did in this apartment complex, and she was like, we have flooded. Everything is flooded, and no one is here. Come help. I was like, Mike, I'm like, load up. And we dropped Colton off and got a little band of people. It was Casey Crow and God, I can't remember who else. A couple people that are not a part of my life anymore. And we headed out, and for a week straight, it started with just us going to people's, showing up at their apartments and like, get your shit out, we'll help you, and we're going to go find you a storage unit. Yeah,
Mike was, I need to back up. I mean, you said you had built a house, but Mike was a builder.
Yes, Mike was a builder.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he did a lot of things, but that was his main gig.
That was our what is it called?
Your bread and butter.
Bread and butter, yeah, that was our bread and butter. Yeah, he built new residential construction, whatever, how you say that.
So he was, he wasn't walking into an area he was not.
He was very familiar.
Yeah, he was very familiar with being able to help people with this kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And so what started as just like 5 or 6 of us, by the end of that week, there were 500 volunteers in this one apartment complex. Yep. I mean, we had people coming and setting up lunch every day. It was nuts, y'all. I would put stuff out on Facebook like, we need cash. We need cash, because the people that live there did not have a way to secure a storage unit. Mm-hmm. They didn't have cash, and I don't know the story, but they needed cash in order to do this. And I had people showing up with just like those bank envelopes, $50 bills.
Yeah,
100 of them.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. Like whatever we put out on Facebook would come back to us. Mm-hmm. It was nuts. It was nuts.
And during that time, I have a funny story. Very, very distinctly can remember being outside the door of a mutual aid meeting at East Lake, and you were doing this series on marriage at the church, and y'all rolled up, and he just literally, I don't even think he stopped going. You jumped out of the back of that military truck. It just rolls up, and Joanne's like, ching, off the side and off into the sanctuary to set everything up for the next, or that Sunday. It was a Friday night. I very distinctly remember that.
That's funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, he just rolls in, drops you, and then you go in. Yeah. And then the next Sunday, everything was set up and ready to go.
On to the next thing, yeah.
That's right.
But we thrived on that kind of stuff. We just loved shit like that, Loved having the next thing already lined up, whether it was work or volunteering or fun or whatever.
And Mike wasn't demonstrative, like, with those kinds of things. Like, he would have rather you not put everything out on social, but he wanted to accomplish the goal, so he tolerated it.
Yeah, he was fine with me doing it if I was like the face of it, but he didn't ever want to be the face of it.
He got mad when you told the gift card story, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Mike was literally like levering his own cash and telling Joanna to go get gift cards and just give them out to people who needed them. Yeah. And he did not want people to know about that.
Yeah.
Ruining his image.
His mean image, yeah. His Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
I'm not nice.
Not nice. Not nice.
Not nice. Yeah. So anyway, that was significant. Yeah. And by Friday, he was like, all right, lady, it's time to cut it off. I sound like Elvis now. I watched Elvis last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so we passed the torch on to the next group because the work was not finished, and we went back to our lives. Yeah. Yes.
And then you went back to making ornaments.
Yes. So yeah, we went back
for the coming season.
Oh, that was so fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was also the what else? There was a few of them that you and I laughed about later. But anyway, there was a couple. You were like, I'm trying to make y'all's tree. Yeah. I want a tree like your tree. Remember that?
Yes.
You made a tree.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, she persisted, which was hilarious that Mike was doing that.
I know. Mm-hmm. Who was that? Elizabeth. What's her name? Warren.
Yeah.
God love her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we made big signs. This redneck man made these big signs that said, "Nevertheless, she persisted."
Yeah. We have one still.
I do. It hangs over my bed.
I know. I love it. I actually have, and I have all the seasons. I have ornaments from all the seasons. You know, they're still our faves. And Joanna would always check extras. Yeah. She'd be like, "This made me think of you. Yeah. Here's an extra."
So I made him cut it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so y'all went back to, that was another one of your creative projects was, It was.
Mm-hmm. It was. And let me tell a side story here because it's significant to the big story. He and I would communicate with this metal.
Yeah.
Whenever, and I remember this in particular, I was pissing him off with the cancer stuff. And it was when I was big into, all you have to do is eat the right thing and you'll heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was making him eat large amounts of kale. And so one morning,
kale, what is that?
Kale, I know. Yeah. Kale is a theme too. So one morning I wake up and he has cut, this piece of metal that's probably 4x4 square. And it says, "You can't fix it with kale." And that's all it says. Leaned up against my coffee maker.
Yeah.
I was like,
got it.
Message received, my friend. Got it. He does not appreciate the kale. Yes.
Is he in remission during this time?
Is he? Yes, he is in remission.
Yeah.
He's feeling good. Like we're
Our
coming off.
producer asked if he was in remission and how he was feeling.
He had been gaining weight. He was coming off being the hero of the flood thing.
Hurricane chili.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Julie made us chili, and West, my oldest son, calls it hurricane chili to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're coming off, going into the holidays. He loved Christmas, and everything, because we got, to see Cash more and stuff. Not Cash, but like his son Cash. And everything's going okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's going okay. So I want to backtrack real quick to something that it was significant, because I would remember this a year and a half later, this one thing that happened when we were dating. It was my first night to go over to his house to, see where he lived and everything. And I'd cooked him dinner, and he was mesmerized that someone actually could make biscuits from scratch. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he fell in love with me that night because I made biscuits. And they were just like drop biscuits.
Yeah.
So he had gotten home from work, and I had already gotten there, and I was cooking and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he went and got in the shower, and I was like, Oh,
yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I kind of want to see what the goods look like, before I sign up for this. So I go back in his bedroom, and he's got this like wall, ice cube wall, that they use to obscure and I remember how my mom used to make this tiny little diamond when she couldn't see, and she would look through it and it would help her see. So I make this tiny little diamond, and I cover up my right eye, and I look through this ice cube wall, and I could see the goods, and the goods were good. The goods were good. I was like, sweet.
Priorities. Should we leave that there? No, I'm just kidding. We are okay. So I want to keep it. Yeah, it's 33.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that.
Yeah,
because that is significant. I'm glad you went back to that.
And so I can quickly wrap this up though after telling that story. So I could see through this wall. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, it is May. It's like the week before Mother's Day of 2016. So Colton is almost 1.5. I'm about to turn 40. Yeah. And nothing really overt has happened yet where I'm like, oh my God, this man's doing some fuckery. Mm-hmm. And so I'm cutting. Same scenario. He has come back from work. He has gone to the bathroom. I'm cutting up vegetables, and I hear what I can only believe, even still, is the audible voice of God says to me, "Go look now."
Yeah.
And so I put my knife down. I remember that I can see through the ice cube wall
with your diamond,
with my mom's diamond. Yes. I creep back there and look through, and it's okay to say what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He was masturbating.
Yeah.
So I look through and I see, and he's masturbating, and he's looking at his phone. Mm-hmm. And I, at that point, am very naive. Mm-hmm. I've lived a very colored life, but when it comes to that, very naive. And I remember like stumbling back. It was like in a movie, you know, stumbling back and like walking to the living room and sitting on the couch, just like dazed and confused.
Like, what's happening?
What is happening? What is he doing? Like, what is he looking at? What, you know?
I think the piece that was probably the most disturbing was he was looking at his phone.
Yes. I mean, everybody masturbates.
Right.
I know that. But he's looking at his phone. And that was the part that was like, oh, God. Oh, my God. Because I knew enough to know what it was. But, like, I did not understand that world.
Right.
You know. And so he walks out and, like, Mama. He used to call me Mama or Little Mama. Mama, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I saw you in the bathroom. What were you doing? And, you know, it goes, and Scott, feel free to cut me off at some point because this is going to launch into another big story. He basically explains it as he cleans his pipes once a quarter every year. When I keep pushing him on this, he says, okay, fine, it's once a month. Then it becomes, all right, fine, it's once a week. Then it becomes, fine, it's once a day. And then it's, okay, I do it multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I knew, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Something is not right. And life, again, as I know it, is about to explode. Yeah.
We're going to cut it there.
Okay.
I thought we were going to get to the next. Well, anyway, we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll say that for the next time. But that's a good one.
Yeah, because that was it. That was the next phase.
Yeah.
That kicked it into the next phase.
That's right.
The singular event that would snowball into my greatest growth and challenges ever.
And the thing that cemented the closeness that you guys had.
Absolutely.
So it's literally it was the piece, the thread at the edge of the edge of the garment, and you pulled it, and the whole garment came apart.
The whole fucking thing came apart. Yeah, this solid garment that I thought had been knitted by my grandmother out of wool and was not going to unravel ever, even when it got sent to Goodwill.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this. You didn't actually just pick at it and that whole thing got set to fire.
Yeah.
So, but we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Again, I just want to say, friend to friend, I know this story. There's pieces of it that I haven't heard, I'm hearing along in this, but I know the whole story. I know the big story, and especially where it's getting ready to kick into. I was with you along the line, along with a lot of that. I was in some of it before, but this is where we really kind of came into the story together and stuff. And my part in it doesn't matter, but I was just saying I especially know where we go from here better than any of the other part of the story.
Thank God. Yeah, you were one of the first people that I encountered after.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. And how everything came to be that morning for me just to be sitting there in the place I was. So I just want to say thank you, and we'll connect in the intervening period between now and then, so, because telling the story, just I was thinking about this beforehand. I've done EMDR on some of my pieces, but sometimes when I retell the story, it still brings up stuff for me.
Yeah.
So I may not experience it with the intensity that I used to, but there are so many tendrils and pieces and parts to it that do come up that have to be rooted out and worked on, right? And kind of sorted through, and that's the grief process.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing it in real time, guys. And so I just want to say, thank you. I just want to honor that, and just honor I do want to sit with gratitude, the ability to witness.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me do that. And Scott, thank you for being a part with us.
Yeah, and thank you for pushing. You didn't even have to push. You were like, tell your story. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Don't worry, he's pushing me on the next one. I'm rolling from this one right into a cold wellness podcast with JP. I'm just going to sit on the other side of the table and everything. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for being along with us and just letting us share our lives with you and for sharing your lives with us kind of by default. Scott, Palmetto Moose Productions. He's our producer du jour. He is the man We love him, and he does amazing work. So connect with him on social, and always consider him for production needs, website design, all kinds of stuff. He does photography. He does aerial drone footage. He does. Go check him out. He does a lot of different stuff. It's really good stuff.
And not only is he talented in his work, he is just a nice guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Genuine.
A nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah. A very incredibly interesting person with a very incredibly interesting story in his own right. Right. So that's why he's good at cultivating and pulling out this stuff for us. So, yeah.
I also listen to lots of podcasts.
He said, I also listen to lots of podcasts. You can catch us on iTunes, Twitter, or not Twitter. I'm thinking Cold Water. Sorry. Catch us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and on Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's where you can catch our podcast. And we'll be back for episode 3 of a multi-part series. We're going to let it roll out and just see how it is, how far we get with this one. Actually, I think I've been taking some notes. There's some things we can pull out of it that are actually topics we can tease out from it.
Okay.
And so anyway, thanks for being with us, guys.
Yep. Thanks, y'all.
And we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye. Thank you.